Good evening, parents. My name is Miss Brown. I'm your Students Math 2 teacher, and I have been teaching at El Camino for 24 years. I have taught everything from pre-algebra to pre-calculus, but right now they've got me for math course 2. I also teach financial this year, so I just made one slideshow for both. At the bottom of this slide, I have some contact information. Email is going to be the way we're going to communicate mostly. If we need to continue a higher level of communication, of course, we'll call each other. But email will be the first step if you have questions, issues, concerns. Also at the bottom of this page, I have my website that has some pretty good notes. It's aligned up with the way we have taught in the past with CPM, and this year we're using Apex. So the website may be a little difficult to find the notes they need. I will put the notes they need on Google Classroom. So they could go to the website, but Google Classroom is going to be the best. A little bit about me, or I should say my family, I guess, is I have 5 boys, and 4 of them are at home, and they're all in school. The oldest at home in the top right corner is a sophomore in college. He graduated from El Camino a couple of years ago, went off to Chapman, and then COVID happened, and now he's home with us until things open back up. So it's interesting getting everyone on Wi-Fi, but we're making it happen. I have a senior and a sophomore at El Camino. The bottom right corner is my senior. He's a beach lifeguard, loves his job. My sophomore in the bottom left corner is a drummer on the drum line at El Camino. And an interesting note about him is that he had a heart transplant when he was 6 years old. So that's kind of a big part of our family. Still, lots of medicines, but he's doing great. All is good. COVID is a little scary for us, but we are being safe. In the top left corner is our oldest, who is married with 2 boys of his own. So boys, 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 that's all we do around here. And then our very youngest in the middle, Logan, is a 6th grader at MLK. Picture's a little old, but anyway, he is doing well at MLK to start us starting there. A little bit about my teaching philosophy, which is probably more what you're interested in. Oddly, when I was in school, I was very afraid of math. I thought I was bad at math. I might have even said I hated math. But I turned around somehow. When I started teaching at El Camino, I taught special education. And during that time, I taught math, became the math teacher in special education, and grew to love it. Just absolutely fell in love, went back and got my math credential. And now I sincerely have done a 180 and fell in love with the subject. It's kind of bizarre. But because of my history and my feelings and my fear of math in school, I work very hard in my classroom to lower the anxiety. I try to make it fun. Sometimes students will leave at the end of the year saying, Ms. Brown, I still don't like math, but I liked your class. So that's a step in the right direction, I guess. I really want them to feel comfortable enough to ask questions. That's my number one goal. So lowering the anxiety so they feel comfortable to say, Ms. Brown, I don't get it. That is what has to happen for them to really learn, especially the students that struggle. In addition to that, I spend a lot of time trying to get to know them, and I really want them to know that I care about them. And I mean that sincerely. It's a weird time right now. I see these boxes with their names on it. Sometimes I get them to turn on their video. So it's hard to get to know them now. I look forward to seeing them in person and getting to know them when that time comes. The boring part is the grading scale. It's standard. Of course, Math 2 is here on the right side. The important part that you might want to know is below that. Apex is the curriculum we're using. The district has used it for quite a while. It's very well organized. It's very user-friendly. We started using it today, actually. Today being Tuesday. You're watching this Thursday. But we've started this week. And you can see that that's the majority of their grade. Anything else that I add that supplements Apex is going to be 20% of their grade. We have warm-ups daily. That'll be part of that 20%. But Apex is where most of the tests and quizzes are at. So large part of their grade. So far, we've entered Apex relatively smoothly here on day 1, and I think it's going to be a good source for them, good way of learning. Things you need to know. The most important thing I would say is Google Classroom. Let's get all the slides open up here. Google Classroom is where I'm going to post all assignments. If you want to know if they have something to do or something they didn't do or a due date for something, check Google Classroom. Your students are on it every day, so they can show it to you. Again, it has due dates. If they have a missing assignment, it will show up on Google Classroom. I mentioned the curriculums with Apex. I mentioned the communication is my email primarily, or at least a starting place, my website, and Aries. Hopefully you know how to get into. If you don't, please call the office right away. They'll probably connect you with a counselor to help you get logged in there. Aries is where their current grade will be. Google Classroom is where I post assignments and I will score them there, but Apex is not in Google Classroom. So their ultimate grade will show up in Aries, not Google Classroom. To get math help, like I mentioned earlier, my number one goal is to get them to ask, oops, too far, to get them to ask questions in class. I work really hard at that. It's really hard for teenagers to do that, though, I realize. So if they're not comfortable, they're shy, embarrassed, I totally understand. We have office hours. I can stay on past 1:45 if they need me to, but ask your student for that login if you need to see it. It's in Google Classroom. I've already had several log in to get some help in office hours, so that kind of makes me happy. Math 2 students have my cell phone that they could text me. We could FaceTime if necessary, but more often students will text me for math help. I don't want them to hesitate to text me. I'm happy to tutor them through texting or FaceTime if necessary through the evening. If I'm busy, I can't at that time, but I will as soon as I can. YouTube is a great source. If they're having trouble with quadratic formula, you go to YouTube, you search it up, you're going to get more than enough videos to help a student. Any topic under the sun is in YouTube, as you probably know. Another great source, though, as you probably also know, is Khan Academy. And I mentioned my website already. Let's see, how can you help? Ooh, you can help a lot right now because they're at home with you. They're not with me. And I know that's a lot. It's a lot to ask. And boy, do I ever wish it was different. I'm here with my 4, and I've had to step away and help my youngest at times. And I know how hard that is. Checking Google Classroom and Aries is the best way you can help them. I've noticed with my kids that they're not as organized as they are when they go to and from school, bringing their backpacks back and forth. I think it's so important they have an organized notebook with dividers, math, English, science, whatever their subjects. They've got to stay organized to get things turned in on time or to find their materials and things like that. So I think a notebook's important. And this one's a tough one for a lot of people, I understand. But a desk is ideal. If it's not a desk, maybe a table. The kitchen table, if possible. If you've got a lot of people coming and going, that may not be ideal. But I think the worst scenario is just lounging in their bed trying to learn is probably not the best idea for this situation. So someplace they can sit up in a chair with some sort of desktop, tabletop, something. I know how hard that is for many, though. Also, what else is hard? Technology is really hard. If you need help, there's a phone number here. There's a website that OUSD has with some helpful links. Check it out. If the phone number you've called and they're not calling back or you're not getting the help you need, I think I mentioned call the school. Just call the school line and someone in the office may well be able to help you. So don't hesitate to call the school. If, though, you're having tech issues, your Wi-Fi is not quite up to par at the moment, and you can't get in the Zoom meeting, please email me, or better yet, even email the attendance office or call them, because we want to know that they couldn't get in, but they tried. So please email us if getting into the Zoom meeting is due to technology difficulties, because that's important for the office to know. All right. Lastly, if you were in person, we'd talk about questions, but we aren't. So email me if you have questions. You could join the office hours if you wish to. Just ask your child where to find that in Google Classroom is the link. It's under the stream. There's 2 sections. There's the stream and there's the classwork. The stream is more informational. The classwork is the assignments they need to get done. I hope this was helpful. I wish I could have met you in person. I look forward to meeting you someday and definitely can't wait to meet your students live in person. Have a wonderful